Hi, this is Arun from arunsyoga.in. I'm a software engineer who mostly work with Node.js, PHP, and other backend technologies. And I'm an open source contributor as well. I'm a tantric by birth in a family which is passing tantric wisdom from generations to generations from past 2000 years of legacy and got lucky to travel across India and got chances to study under various gurus from different backgrounds and disciplines. You could connect with me in arunsyoga.in. Here I'm helping you to design a divine lifestyle which is based on Vedic astrology, tantra and other yogic system of understanding. Hi all, welcome to new episode of our podcast series. In at this podcast, I am joining with Heather to talk about mystical wisdom and the introduction to Kundalini meditation. So hi, what's up? Um, so as we discussed in previous podcast, Joe has something very wonderful to say to the world, like about the mystical understanding and being centered and coming to the core of our own self and resonating that into our daily life and stuffs like that. So when you are referring to all those things, what would you like to say that the Joe is a yeah, we all know that Joe is a wonderful man. Apart from that, uh, his teaching is like going to help the people, or what is this?
The main focus of Joel's work was to bring people into an awareness of their divine identity, their spiritual identity. And he's remembered mostly for his work on spiritual healing. Um, and the premise of his work really is to uh, make one consciously aware of one's own awareness and to rest in that presence in order to experience healing spiritually.
So I hope that you have gone through some of my podcast, and mostly I teach. Yeah, I teach tantra. So basically, tantra has different things, like it's like martial arts that is like kalari, which is actually walking, hatha yoga, the doing the yoga when we are walking. And the kama sutra is the part of tantra, that is like orgasmic understanding to divinity, like using a partner to get into divine understanding. um, Also there is astrology is there, understanding the energies of our body and how we can actually use that energies into a particular way to reach the higher
Mm.
potential or the higher energies. And also there is divine structures, like spiritually correct architecture, which is in Tantra Samuchayam. That has been another book is been written from India, that talk about how do we construct something which is actually actually will not falsify the higher potential of human being. It will actually help people to reach the higher potential, the place which we live and the place we used to meditate and all those things as a push or a role in spiritual development that is been talking in spoken in Tantra Samjam. So by said this, how do you see, does it contradicting Smith work, or does it complementing the Smith work, and how does it?
Well, I wouldn't say that it contradicts Joel's work. Um, Joel took a very different approach to helping people become aware of their spiritual identity. He encouraged people to move away from anything that we experience through the five senses, um, to just becoming aware of that invisible part of ourselves, maybe through meditation, and resting in that presence and letting it do the work. So rather than attempting to reach the divine through physical energies, mental energies, anything that we can experience through the five senses, Joel encouraged us through his teachings to simply go within, maybe to listen, maybe to be aware of that invisible part of ourselves, and let it do the work, simply to rest in that presence. So in that regard, it's quite different to Tantra, but I would say that the teaching certainly complements the Tantric wisdom.
So one thing is like when I'm listening to Joe's words, actually I can understand he is like talking from the heart, like he is talking from that particular experience. It's like
Yeah,
a transcendental person. I can understand from his words like he is actually transcended beyond the body and mind, and he's actually, when he is speaking, he's actually speaks from the heart. By said this, when I am listening to his teaching, like
yeah,
Christian teaching, which is like a Semitic religion that is actually uh, classifies what is right and what is wrong, and there is 10 commandments and things like that. And when Joe is speaking about the something which is actually genderless, which is actually formless, and that is beyond morality and existence and things like that,
yeah.
I felt like it's slightly contradicting, or maybe he's coming into a dilemma of uh, um, the Semitic teaching. How do you reflect to this?
Semitic, do you mean Jewish teachings when you say that, or that the contradiction between Christian and Jewish teachings, or
Semitic
semantic? I
religion,
didn't.
Semitic
Right.
religion, which I referred by, like any religion which is actually classifies what is good and what is bad.
Mm,
Like some religions will classify this is for instance, in Bible there is 10 commandments, like this
yeah.
is the way we have to live, because that is the good deed, and if we do the good deed, there is certainly bad deed, so there will be Satan,
Mm.
you know. And so any
Well, Joel,
religion which classifies what is right and what is wrong, I refer to Semitic religion.
I see. Okay. Well, um, uh, Joel taught that the true reality, the only absolute reality of existence, is pure consciousness. Um, and you and I have spoken before about the fact that in order to articulate that, we can be very caught up in language. And obviously, the divine can't be expressed um, completely in language, in words. It's something that has to be experienced to be known. And that's what Joel encouraged people to do, to go beyond having an intellectual understanding of God to having an actual experience of God. Um, and so he taught that the only absolute reality is pure consciousness, that invisible part of ourselves, that life force within us that constitutes our being. But he said that as a sort of, I like to think of it as a patina over the top of consciousness, a mirage, something that's images and sensual experiences that are superimposed over, appear to be superimposed over consciousness. And um, we have an awareness of that, which is our sensory experiences through the five senses. And we look out on a world through our five senses and believe things are separate and apart from us, even though what we're seeing, the substance of what we're seeing, is our own consciousness. That's all there really is. And we look out at these things which we believe to be separate and apart from ourselves, and then we judge them. We deem them to be good or bad. We fear some things, we desire some things. And this is what causes the whole problem, I suppose, of human existence. And I hope that's answered your question. This is where the good and bad comes from. And my understanding of this in the Bible is that the 10 Commandments were sent to Moses. But Jesus in the New Testament taught that, that there's a deeper level of understanding, that rather than living by the 10 Commandments, the main commandment that Jesus taught was to love thy God with all thy heart and to love thy neighbor as thyself. And by that he meant to live with the understanding that there's only one, and that one is your own self, your own consciousness.
So my question is like, how do like, so when Joe speaks from out of the biblical reality or the biological teaching, does his teaching is actually contradicting with the uh, biological teaching? That's what I'm asking.
No, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that he was contradicting the teachings. He was explaining the mystical interpretation of what Jesus taught, rather than perhaps the way that the Bible has been misinterpreted over the centuries.
So you are trying to say that there is, if we look at into the core of the Bible, there is actually no differences with right or wrong, or right
No,
deed
I
or
wouldn't say
bad
that.
deed.
No, I wouldn't say that. And that's coming from a perspective of judging on the human level.
Yeah, the judging,
So
the judging is actually judgmental nature is actually contradicting with the God consciousness.
yes, because if we're judging the things that we're seeing through our senses, we're living out of our false identity, rather than resting in the awareness that we really are, which is
Yes,
our true
exactly.
identity.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm wondering. Like the Semitic religions mostly amplify this false identity by imposing what is right and what is wrong.
Well, I can only share with you what Joel had to say about that, which is what I just explained.
Yeah. So that was my question. So um
It's an
anything
interesting
like,
point that you made, a little bit touched on today, and something that you and I have talked on about earlier, and that's the language that Joel uses to help people reach an awareness of their own consciousness and have mystical experience. And you commented to me in the past, well, Joel very often uses the word father, which is obviously a word that's mentioned many times in the Bible. And he used that word even though he understood that that God was genderless, that that God didn't have it, can't be conceptualized or related to it in any way with regards to human form. And I looked up Um, I'll show you. This is the most recent of Joel's books. It's called The Government of Edom, published by Acropolis. And I looked up what they say, why they continue to use the word father throughout Joel's teachings, because all of his books were actually transcripts of the talks that he gave that have been edited. And if I read the publisher's note in this one, it says that Joel uses the word varying concepts of God as father, mother, soul, spirit, and he uses them interchangeably when he's talking. And then it says during the 1950s and 1960s, which was when Joel was giving most of these talks, masculine pronouns were commonly used to refer to God. Bear in mind that Joel was an American. So this was a popular way in America at that time in the Christian world to refer to God. Today, such gender bias is disappearing. And it says that while Acropolis book supports gender inclusivity in spiritual literature, the editors have chosen not to alter the masculine pronouns in the book in order to present Joel's teachings as it was originally expressed. So I just wanted to make the point that Joel did understand completely and had an awareness that God was genderless, even though he used these terms in his talks.
So some of the words which Joe put forth in his speak is actually to make people to understand that God is genderless to the
Yeah,
people,
absolutely.
those who are actually believing that God has a gender.
Yeah, he liked to use the word. He mentions it many times during the course of his books. He liked to use the term the infinite invisible, because for him that's something that can't be conceptualized. You can't conceptualize something that's infinite and something that's invisible. And he used that purposefully, so that rather than trying to the mind trying to grasp an understanding of God, it encouraged one to just rest back in the awareness of one's invisible presence, rather than trying to work out what it actually is.
So I would like to go for a small technique of tantric meditation. Like, would you like to do that?
Super. I'd love to, yeah.
So so this is like basically we consider there is Muladhara. Muladhara is the human nature, like it's a primitive human nature.
Yes.
Mostly human beings does everything for food, drink, and sex and reproduce. This is what most of the people does. So people believe that is the only thing, and they speak something like they manipulate their surrounding, or they say lies in order to actually to sustain this, like their
Mm-hmm.
food, their drinks, or their whatever they are into. To sustain this, they use their words. So this all these things are comes from the primitive nature. So basically all the spiritual practices, what it does is like it's actually help us to get into higher consciousness. So tantra is most powerful way, like it's a straight sharp knife, like it's like taking an LSD, like it's just smashing everything and going deep beyond. So I would like to do a small teach a small meditation if you're interested, like.
Great, thank you.
So can you close your eyes for some 2 minutes?
Okay, yeah.
Just close your eyes, just calm your mind and see what is happening inside on your mind. Like whatever it may be. Just see what is, if you try to do that, whether you can see what is happening inside your mind. Just don't force any thought into mind, just see. And imagine your tip of your spine, that is where the Muladhara, tip of your spine. While you are focusing your thoughts on your tip, see what is happening on your mind. Just observe. Don't be get into any trouble or anything. Don't force anything. Just see what is happening. So the tip of your spine, and it starts to buzz. It's buzzing. It's buzzing. And that buzzing is goes up towards your vertebrae, like buzzing, 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 and this goes up, coming up, going up, buzzing, 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 and now it's on your forehead, buzzing, again buzzing, it goes up, buzzing, 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 and now it moves out of your body. It's buzzing. It's like there is a lotus. A lotus is actually coming out from your top of your head. It has 1,000 plus petals. It's unveiling like one petal, another petal, another petal, another petal. So much light in that lotus. It's buzzing, buzzing. Now it goes down. It's buzzing on your forehead. And the lotus is closed now. It's buzzing on your forehead. And it goes down. Again, buzzing, 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 buzzing. And it is now on the tip of your vertebrae. Just buzzing there. and just rest there, stops there, and see now what is happening in your mind. Once you feel okay, just rub your hands, make it heat. Don't open your eyes. Just rub your hands and place it on your eyes and look at on the hand. When you feel okay, you can open your eyes and look by looking at on your palms. So this is actually to give you an idea of what is this tantra is about. It's about this energy that resides in our kundalini, that is the tip of our spine, that is something like looks like, people say it's like serpent, but it has no forms or shape or anything. So to evoke this particular energy and take it into higher, using different kind of breathing, meditation, music and songs, and whatever it is like. So these are the set of practices of tantra. So I just given you an introductory to give you an idea of what is this tantra is about. That's why given this.
That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure people will watching will enjoy practicing that too.
This is a small practice, like to get you an idea of like, it's like an opening, like what are you working with, like, you know,
Mm.
what are you going to work with.
That's quite a different practice to the one that Joel would encourage people to use. His focus really was on listening to the silence within, rather than using the imagination to connect with that.
So that's why
I
the
enjoyed.
imagination is a trap actually, like that you should not get fall into imagination. You should be come into a place where you should be capable to witness what is happening inside. It's like it's not an imaginary thing, because if we say the imagination also needed to evoke, to touch certain parts of our brain, so some different cells will get activated if imaginary power is coming out. Then once we got that, we have to come out from the imagination. It's like people say the kundalini is looks like serpent, but it is not actually serpent. It has no form, and there is no chakras actually in body, but it has 200 and plus chakras are there in body. And it is not sahasrara on the top of the head. There is but it is sahasrara. So that is how it contradict, and that is how we can get into, because tantra is a technique, like to evoke ourselves into something deeper.
It's interesting. It's interesting for me to compare, really, because with regards to Joel, he encouraged people to contemplate spiritual truths as a way of leading someone into the silence. within. And I guess this is what you're encouraging people to do, but in a different way, something that leads one into an awareness of the divine.
So you want to share, talk anything of Joe's work over here, like anything which right now I given you an understanding of what is Tantra is about, and how to begin with and things like that. Um,
Mm.
so by looking at into this, and you want to give something, like you want to talk
Um,
anything.
well, the only thing that comes to mind is that the main book of Joel's, the one which all the other books sort of stem from, was called The Infinite Way. It's a small book, and in it, the penultimate chapter is called The New Horizon. It's a short chapter, but Joel said that it was the most important chapter out of all of his books because it explains in a very concise way the principles of spiritual healing that he was teaching. And my colleague Banani Vista, and I will be giving a workshop later this month on this very chapter. It's fascinating because the New Horizon came to Joel in a dream. He said he rarely dreamt, but one night, whilst he was asleep, he saw in his dream a scroll of paper roll down, unfurl in front of him, and on it was old English script, if you can imagine that. And Joel forced himself to wake up, which he managed to do, and he wrote down everything that was written on this scroll. And as soon as he finished writing, Joel said this scroll rolled itself back up and disappeared, and he never had a dream like that again. But because he'd managed to write it all down, it captured all the principles which form the basis of the rest of his teaching. So Banani and I will be talking about that in more depth later this month in our own workshop.
So you want to say something to people who are listening to this particular podcast which we are having now?
Yeah. On any particular aspect of Joel's work,
Yeah.
Aaron?
No, I mean,
Any
what's that?
any particular area of Joel's work that you wanted me to comment on?
You want to say something right now, like for the people?
I mean, we've talked about Christianity. Joel actually
Mm-hmm.
studied all religions, even though his work mainly draws on the Bible. He did actually study all religions, and he lived in the East for a little, in the Middle East for a little while, and studied there, especially in Egypt. So I think it's important to make people aware that he wasn't just, he was born to non-practicing Jewish parents. And I think I explained to you before that he was very interested in Christian Science. But the wisdom that he shares is universal. It's drawn from the understanding that he gleaned over many years from all the major religions.
Yeah, because God is religionless. Even though
God
he
is
has this
religionless. Yeah.
religion. And God is religionless, even though he has a lot of
Yeah,
religions.
it's so
Yeah,
true.
that's true. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you for listening to my podcast. You could connect with me in arunsyoga.in, where you could see my contact details, including my phone number, my WhatsApp, and email ID. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes.